Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of Wilbur Talks FPL, where we talk everything FPL and the Premier League in general. We're recording this on actual Sunday night, so we haven't actually seen the Arsenal game, which will be on tomorrow against Crystal Palace. So some of our comments, you have to bear with us on those ones. And we're just after the Spurs against Newcastle game has concluded. So bear with us on that one if someone goes crazy in the Arsenal game tomorrow, which I'm sure Charlie would like.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully. And on that note, welcome back, Charlie and Sam. You both doing well?
Yeah, good, thank you. Glad
Yeah.
to be back.
Yeah, thanks for having us back.
No worries. It seems like we only spoke the other day. I'm not used to them doing them this close to each other. But yeah, we'll jump straight into it. So I feel like we'll go, because it's so fresh in our minds, we'll literally start with today. I don't know if you've both, well, I'm probably catching you both a bit here if you haven't seen the games today. But so Spurs have just beat Newcastle 3-2 in the end it was. Did either of you catch that game?
Yeah, I caught the Spurs Newcastle game, little bits and pieces of the Everton West Ham game, but yeah, Spurs Newcastle was actually quite a good watch, to be honest.
Yeah, what did you think of Spurs? Well, I'm thinking more about Spurs in this, thinking of assets maybe further down the line. What did you make of like Son and Kane in the fixture?
It's interesting that Kane's finally off the mark. Typically, when he does get off the mark, he goes on a quite impressive run of returning. So have to keep an eye on that one. And yeah, I mean, good. Not nice to see sort of an unselfish mindset from him as well. To just put it on a play for Son for a tap in. So those two clearly haven't lost their chemistry. Just hasn't worked for them for whatever reason for the first couple of weeks. Still wouldn't touch any defensive Spurs asset at all. And midfielders from them, not really, nothing sort of really stand out. It was a good finish from Ndombele for his goal, but I can't really think I'm going to be putting him anywhere near a fancy team anytime soon. Newcastle, nothing. I mean, if you're going on any Newcastle asset, it's probably only ever St. Maximin, and just showed today why. You can see he actually is probably one of the best players on the pitch, but just didn't provide any positive returns. So it's just another reason why you got to look at FPL in terms of what the point scoring system is for your players when you're making picks, because St. Maximin's gonna return when he returns, but outside of that, he's not going to be picking up too many bonuses and other points in other areas. So yeah, I think going forward, Kane and Son Son probably already convinced us that he's worth a pick this year. If you've got him in for today, congratulations. If you haven't, maybe one to look at. And Kane's probably just put his name on the bottom of the list of striker considerations, I guess, going forward.
Yeah, I think St. Max has actually been decent this year. He's the fourth highest scoring forward in the game. So I think he's been consistently like getting a goal or assist every game. So for his price, he has been ticking over quite well, to be fair. And I saw that it was Callum Wilson's first game back as well today, and he grabbed that goal. So he's probably out of those two. If you ever, like for example, if Newcastle have got like Norwich and you want to take a 1 week punt, obviously go for either of them. But yeah, probably not a long-term hold.
I do wonder now Wilson's back whether that will sort of lower St. Maximin's scoring. Like maybe it boost his assist potential, but obviously he's had to step up in Wilson's absence. But now they'll go back to Wilson being the kind of main man, whereas with him out, it's only going to be St. Maximin doing anything up front, really. But yeah, like Wilson's always quite reliable for goals here and there. So yeah, already starting with a goal.
Yeah, I think overall it's probably better for St. Max because someone can actually finish his chances that he's creating. But like you said, it's probably not going to get as many goals. But it's one to look out for. I think St. Max has actually risen quite a lot since the start of the season. I think he's about like 6.8. I think he is now. Yeah, 6.8. So he's only gone up 0.3 this season, which I don't think anyone would have called at the start of the season. I don't think there's much to really note from the West Ham game either. I watched most of the game, wasn't particularly enthralling. Not much to write home about there. Antonio Benrahma blanking for me, as usual. No, not as usual, but I think we'll probably... Well, I'll bring up the question now. I think I've made the point about it last time about Antonio. Are either of you considering getting rid of Antonio. I'm pretty sure you've both still got him. Did you have him after your wildcard, Charlie? I'm pretty sure you did.
Yeah, I did. I kept him in on the wildcard. Reason being, it felt wrong to drop arguably one of the best performing forwards in the league. Statistically especially, but also, just up until now, he's been really performing enough to, obviously before this game, it was only one blank, but before that, he scored a goal. So it didn't really feel like, I mean, there were arguments to drop him, but then I couldn't really move. I wasn't really going to move up to anyone because I didn't really have the funds. So it was going to be about choosing one of these kind of going for a striker on a punt. So someone like Hwang, who obviously we saw started but didn't get anything, I don't think. Or maybe like Adam Armstrong, who didn't even start. So yeah, I think I just wanted kind of the security of someone that I know has performed well across a few seasons now, is kind of West Ham's main man. And just kind of the structure that I wanted, he kind of fit the bill perfectly. So yeah, I'm happy to kind of ride out these tougher fixtures, which, as I've said a few times, I think he still has the potential to score in any of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the old motto: if he stays fit, most of the time you want him in your team. So I think a lot of people are a bit scared of removing it at this stage. I feel like if you get another blank or two, people are considering it a lot more. But I think because of his price, he's going to stay in a lot of teams. It's funny when you said Antonio is one of the best forwards, I looked at the forward list and I'm like, Jamie Vardy's top of that forwards list, but we don't consider him, which is just like solely because of his price. If it was like Antonio's range, there'd be a lot of people hopping off the Vardy, I would have thought. This one to think about as we go forward. So we'll go back to you, Sam. Is there anyone from any fixture from Saturday that you want to pick out and talk about?
I wonder which one you're going to go to.
Gave him the option.
So it was a banging day of Premier League football, really, all throughout. Just one of those days where you could sit and probably, apart from Norwich, Brighton, you could have got enjoyment. Well, if you're a Norwich fan, you get enjoyment out of a point at these days. But other than maybe a Brighton fan, you could have quite happily watched any of the games from Saturday and be reasonably entertained. But yeah, obviously, loyalties starting first with the Redmen. And Liverpool were very good. Watford were awful. Quite easily the worst performance I've seen from any team so far this season in the Premier League. They were shambolic. So before, Liverpool were good, but most teams would have put a couple past Watford on Saturday. I'd be happy to say that Burnley probably would have won 3-0. So just putting things into perspective. But yeah, just I didn't really go too full praise on him last week. And I know Charlie picked up on the fact that if there was any doubt that Salah's probably the best forward in the league, I think we're talking a bit more of a global scale. I'm not saying just part of putting an extra one past a mediocre Watford defence. But if he hadn't had a goal ruled out for offside earlier in the season, I think it was in the Burnley game, then he would have scored in every single game so far this season for Liverpool. His stats are crazy. The skill involved in his goal against Watford was just out of this world. And to see him do it week after week against probably the best team in the league, and then against one of the worst teams in the league, no matter who it is, this guy is just playing with supreme confidence. Is an absolute athlete. And a real pleasure to have. Obviously, when he's on your team, it's amazing. But for the Premier League, it's absolutely essential that Salah stays in the Premier League. So I hope Liverpool can get his contract tied down pretty soon. But yeah, Liverpool overall were very good. I'll let you dissect the disaster class at Leicester. But yeah, other than that, some really positive performances from Southampton with a good result against Leeds. Chelsea battled somehow, got a 1-0 win at Brentford. The last 20 minutes there were quite crazy. How Brentford didn't score, I have no idea. Well, we know Mendy had an absolute worldie. And a really gritty comeback from Wolves as well. Probably worth a shout for one of the games if you want a bit of entertainment. So, yeah, really pleased Liverpool got such a convincing win. But overall, very pleased that the Premier League is just the best advert for club football in the world, week in, week out.
Yeah, and just when you was like saying that, like every fan could have got a bit of enjoyment from yesterday. I was like, you clearly didn't know how a Man United fan felt then. I was like,
Well,
just,
yeah,
yeah,
okay,
I get what
fair
you mean.
enough.
Like, yeah,
Having said that, though, like, and I'll touch on this just quickly. To have a player like Mason Greenwood in your ranks is an absolute blessing at this point in time. And from Liverpool fans, we look at Trent and think this guy is like generational. Mason Greenwood is also generational. Like, that guy has unbelievable quantities of talent, and it just needs a manager to be able to back him constantly. And to be fair to Ollie, that's maybe one of the things that I would say he's done well. It's just the real introduction of Mason Greenwood into that starting 11, give him the confidence and just say, just go and play, and I will pick you. I'll give you a run of games and just go and show us what you got. Unbelievable goal yesterday from him, and I really hope that eventually, when the wheels come falling off the Ollie bus, because I think unfortunately now it's a matter of time, and that Greenwood doesn't sort of pay the price when they start to find a manager who knows what he's doing. But we'll sit and watch that from the sidelines unfold over the coming weeks.
yeah, it's very much, as a few people like to say, we're very much moments FC at the minute. Like we rely on moments from individual brilliance to either save us or make us look better than we are. Like the whole team isn't functioning well, and that just comes back to the manager with his tactics. Really, obviously, there's other issues within the club that obviously will be widely spoken about, but the manager's really not good enough to be managing. I think if he had no, if we took out the fact that he used to play for Man United, that he'd never be anywhere near getting the job. I think that's the bit you've got to look at. He's very much got this job because he used to play for us, which shouldn't be the way you're hiring your managers. So that's a different one. Fair play to Leicester, though. They were just totally destroyed us. They deserved to win. Our best player was still David De Gea, even though we lost, conceding 4 goals, which kind of sums it totally up there for you. But yeah, I'm not particularly looking forward to playing Sam's lot next week either, but it's surprising sometimes what we can do in the big games. Ollie likes a big game, especially Man City, he seems to like, but that's we'll take anything from that game probably at this point, but you can just see.
You'll do very well to get something from that game, I think.
I know. The thing is as well, like whenever Ollie's in trouble, he goes on a run, what saves his job every single time. Now, I'm not saying it's going to start in the Liverpool game, but you can just see it happening again, and he gets away with it, and the board just like gloss over it again. But
yeah, I did notice that the fixtures turn for you in, I think it's beginning of December. They start getting really good. So that seems like perfect. Just about when he's almost about to lose his job, that seems perfect time to turn it around, and he'll stay another couple of seasons.
Definitely, I feel like he has to get between now and the next international break. I think there's three league fixtures, and then obviously the European fixtures. I feel like when you get to that international break, if he hasn't won like a game or two there to take some pressure off, he's going to have so much pressure over those 2 weeks that it's going to be a bit unbearable, and I can't see how he can keep his job. But the Glazers love him because he protects the Glazers. So, like at the minute, Ollie's probably making the Glazers look better because he's that bad, but we'll see how it goes. And I think the main thing, as you guys will always point out, when other fans want Ollie to keep the job, then you know it's a bad thing. So we've definitely got miles past that stage.
I did hear it. I can't remember where I heard it. I think it's just another podcast talking about it or something. But if you think about it, is there another team in the league do you think that would take him? I don't think there is, and that probably says a lot.
Probably Norwich.
Do you think? I think even them, like obviously it's a different situation, but they'll be looking for someone with the expertise to kind of keep out of relegation. But yeah, I don't think anyone would take him on his merits. It's like you said, it's all down to really the association with the club and so on.
I think it's spot on. That is a very valid point as well. I think I might have heard that from the same podcast actually. But in terms of track record, the only Premier League experience he'd had before was with Cardiff. And although maybe he wasn't actually in position when they went down, I think he was there at the start of the season and didn't finish the season. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that tells you all you need to know. Other than long term, I cannot see how anyone at what is the biggest club in the world, and there's no real hiding away that Manchester United are the biggest club in the world, how someone there thought that this was the long-term answer is quite crazy, really. When you look at the numbers, the history, anything, it is a strange one, I must say. And it's easy to say in hindsight. Obviously, now Manchester United haven't won trophy for a long time. They've bottled numerous semi-finals, finals, and this isn't just pouring hot needles on wheels. So apologies if it's coming across that way. It's just trying to, be rational about this. The only rational way to look at it is how on earth has a guy who basically got a team relegated from the Premier League and won the Norwegian League been given the best job in world football, basically. And Manchester United have got serious problems throughout the club. It's not just Ollie. It's still got problems throughout the club, but something's got to change if you really want to be back in amongst the big trophies where you should be, really, as Manchester United.
Definitely, he's just completely out of his depth, isn't he? And it's, well, like I've said, it's not the only issue with the club, but it'll be one to solve if they got a decent manager. And I think the point I was making yesterday as well is he doesn't have a style of football that he particularly plays. There seems to be no kind of logic to how he's trying to play the football. He's just relying on moments from different players, which you can't just bail yourself out. Like, if you see City, you see Liverpool, even Chelsea to a degree, you know how they're going to set up and play, but he just puts the team out and hopes they do something. But anyway, enough about that. Charlie, was any other games on Saturday, or touching on any that Sam has already mentioned that caught your eye?
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered them all, really. Pretty standard Man City win. Was quite a few of the games I was a bit frustrated by just because of for FPL reasons, which I'm sure we'll get into. And yeah, obviously, I think you've got to give some credit to Wolves for that comeback. I read somewhere that was only the third ever time in Premier League history that a team's come back to score 3 goals from the 80 minutes onwards to come back from 2-0 down. So that's obviously pretty astounding. And for 2 of those goals to come from centre backs, it's just had one of those feels where when it was 2-2 and Neves lining up to take that free kick, it just had that air of inevitability about it. That's the way it goes. That just kind of, you get those feelings from games sometimes when they turn on their head completely like that. And yeah, I think just to go back to that Brentford Chelsea game, I like Sam said, if it wasn't for Mendy, then Brentford certainly would have scored at least one. But I think it just highlights how good Brentford have been in this first season. They clearly can sort of go toe to toe with a lot of these big teams. They obviously got the draw against Liverpool. They've by all rights could have got a draw against Chelsea. They obviously beat Arsenal, and yeah, I don't think there's a team in this league that won't have some kind of fear of them. Even the likes of Man City, for example, who they know that Brentford will come and attack them, which could be good for Man City as well. But that's Guardiola's always talks when he's talked about games that he goes into and appreciates the other side and fears sometimes the other sides. It's those kind of teams that attack them, and those are the ones that can sometimes take it to Man City and actually beat them. So yeah, really impressed by Brentford again, despite the fact obviously they didn't end up scoring or winning. But yeah, very, very pleased to see that, and yeah, happy to keep kind of watching them as things go on.
Yeah, I think they're definitely one to be watching. I think especially, well, you could even say from next game week. But then after that, I think they've got less the next game week, and then the next 3 or 4 fixtures are just so nice. There's going to be a lot of Tony and Mbeumo owners, as far as I can think of. Well, I've got one of them. I'm not sure I'll be going for both, but we'll see.
And even that Leicester fixture, because obviously they did well against your lot, but defensively they are still struggling. Yeah. Leicester, and they've been very patchy up until now. They probably will try and use this win this weekend as a bit of a platform, but yeah, they are still struggling defensively. So I don't think there's any reason why Brentford, considering the sort of how they've been playing up to date, I think they'll feel quite confident going into that game. Not necessarily to get a win, but that they can at least put in a good performance and just see what happens. Try and get a draw or maybe even push for the win. But yeah, I can certainly see them scoring at least one against Leicester.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be a good game, that one. I think before the United-Leicester game, I was calling like a 3-3 because I knew neither team was going to be able to defend. So I've got the right amount of goals. It's not the right result, but close enough, I'm saying. Right, so we better touch on how we've done in FPL, and we'll go back to Sam, who's I'm sure will be loving life, top of the league, I'm pretty sure he's top of the league, but he's had a really good week. You're going to tell us about that and the transfers you made in the week, Sam?
Yeah, sure. So again, I mean, this week wasn't quite as much pure stroke of fortune as last week, but finding myself in the position I've got myself was kind of fortunate, I guess, to this week to have the luxury of being able to have 2 transfers left over. Worked out that I didn't really need to use the wild card until game week 9, which is probably the latest I've ever played my first wild card in FPL, so I'm pretty pleased with that. I brought in Kevin De Bruyne for Bruno. I just felt like the Man City fixture at home against Burnley was a much better fixture on paper than Leicester away. Although that Bruno's still got a lot of points so far this year. It wasn't exactly a foregone conclusion, so I was pretty pleased that one worked out. And I just thought Brighton were in too good a form to not score against Norwich. How wrong was I? But I brought in Mopé. I can't even remember who was in ahead of him. But yeah, I brought in Mopé for Dennis.
Yeah.
So that was quite a reasonable change either way, really. Dennis unlikely to return against Liverpool, but Mopé, I was pleased that I just backed my gut decision that sometimes I don't do enough and I want to be able to do more throughout the season, and I was in a nice position to be able to do so with the 2 free transfers. So yeah, that's what we went for. De Bruyne returning 11 points. Mopé just getting the 2. In fact, none of the strikers got more than 2 points. A bit of Salah magic as the skipper. Greenwood with the goal, De Bruyne goal, Benrahma, the old clean sheet point in there. Livramento clean sheet, Trent clean sheet, Sanchez clean sheet, racking up 71 points. So pretty pleased with how this week's gone in general, and nice to, for the first time in the whole game, really just get a little bit of breathing space before next. Obviously we've got the Arsenal fixture to come tomorrow, but I'm not quite sure how many Arsenal assets are in amongst the rest of the league. But yeah, it's nice to get a little bit of a gap at the top, because it's only really been 1 or 2 points between us all season. But I think outscored Pete this week by a few. So a good week, and wild card next week, 100%.
Very interesting. Then we'll talk about.
Yeah, I've got the full draft ready to go.
Oh well, we'll talk about that in the second half.
Yeah.
Let me know you're a bit prepared for this. I'm not expecting a full draft, but that'll be good to talk around. Speaking of Arsenal assets, I think Charlie's got 2 assets in tomorrow's game, so you might have to watch out for Charlie. Do you want to talk us through your game week so far, Charlie?
Yeah, I think just on that, that's quite a positive take for me to get anywhere towards Sam with my 2 Arsenal assets, to be honest. But we can hope anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I played my wildcard as discussed in the last pod, and it's quite disappointing, to be honest. I mean, basically all of the kind of 50-50 calls didn't pay off this week. And yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. You get those from time to time each season where things just don't quite work out for you. I feel a lot of those had fair enough logic behind them, so I kind of still stick to my guns on those. So for example, I was kind of tossing between Diaz as my second Man City player or Foden. Ended up going with Diaz, which obviously didn't work out very well with Diaz coming off the bench, and Foden also getting an assist as well. But my logic behind it was that Diaz, of the 2, I would expect Diaz to be getting more regular starts and therefore at least get kind of matching Foden in terms of points return. But yeah, obviously it just didn't pay out this week. But the point of the wildcard is to be long term. Ultimately, I'm picking this team to last me until the second wildcard somewhere mid the second half of the season. So it is the long game after all. And yeah, just a few other sort of disappointing things, such as the likes of James and Mount, both again on the bench and then coming off. So 1 point from both of those as well. Captain Salah, like pretty much everyone. So that kind of where the bulk of my points came from. And yeah, like you say, so I do have 2 Arsenal assets. I've got Ramsdale in goal, who I think is a good shout for anyone that just wanted something a bit different from Sanchez. I think my logic in going with him over Sanchez was just that with Sanchez so far, we've basically seen either 6 points or 2 points. he just hasn't really quite built up the number of saves to get anything more than that. And maybe this is kind of pushing beyond what you should actually really expect for a 4.5 keeper. But actually, we've seen Ramsdale making more saves than Sancho's generally most weeks. So there is just that extra little possibility of getting the extra 1 or 2 points based on those saves. And yeah, so I did go with Saka, which is interesting because I have maybe sort of dissuaded people from going with him in previous pods. And to be honest, I would still stick with that. But it's really just the amount of money I had left for that fourth mid spot, and almost kind of outside of fantasy reasons, just wanting to make it a bit more fun again and enjoy watching my team and actually having a player that plays for Arsenal in my fantasy team. It just felt like a nice thing to do, to be honest. So that's kind of my only real reason for going for him. I think he'll be patchy and I don't think he'll get points every week, but I'm just happy to have an Arsenal player that I really like in my team, which isn't normally how I do things, but why not just live a little. But yeah, I'm pleased with the general setup of my team. But yeah, as I say, the points return probably hasn't really paid off this week. But I'm hoping over the coming weeks it will start to show. Because I think I am really well set up now. I've got triple Chelsea for this good run. I've got a good base in the double City defence and the Liverpool players as well. So yeah, got quite happy with the setup. But just going to need a few more weeks to hopefully see it pay off.
The long term, you don't always see the benefits the first week. I think many times when I've wildcarded, I've always got a worse score than what my original team would have had, which is typical. And you got very unlucky with a lot of benchings this week, so you'll hopefully get better next time. I think the point sometimes you've got to enjoy the game at the same time, haven't you? Like you said about Saka, I think I was thinking about that earlier in the season, also when Ronaldo signed, and just loving on his debut scoring twice, and then after the game thinking, oh, God's sake, not FPL, because I ain't got him in my team. But sometimes you have to enjoy both, don't you? But saying that about Man United assets now, I'm not recommending them at all. We'll take anything that we can get at this point. We'll be backing us against Liverpool. So if we just touch on my team as well, I'm currently on 54 points, so decent week, especially compared to last week where I think I got like 32, which is the worst week I've had so far. Similar to both of you guys with Salah captain, and then it's only really defensive returns with Trent and Cancelo, and then I also had Greenwood, who's Samad. So I don't think any of our forwards has returned anything this week, so not a great time to be playing a 3-4-3. I think we kind of mentioned, I think when we were looking at wildcards, about investing a lot at the back, and investing in the back for this game week definitely would have worked. I've seen a lot of like 5-3-2s go very well for people this week. So again, it brings up that question of formation. It's not always optimal to have all the attackers out because it's sometimes harder for them to return. But yeah, I think I'm going to say I'm climbing up the league, but I'm not. I'm still in the same position, but I feel more happier than I did last week. So Sam's still the man to beat. I think you're good. You're about 50 points clear of me, Sam. I'm nowhere near you at this point.
Long way to go, mate. Long way to go.
We'll get there. Yeah, and as Sam said, he's going to be playing his wildcard, but I'm standing firm. Last week I regretted playing it so early, so this time I'm going as long as possible. Get as close to that middle of the season as we can. I'm hoping we might get some news on Chelsea in the, what's it called now? The Super Cup, because that is around December as well. I'm trying to phase it around that happening, so it could be a late one for me. But yeah, I think we've covered nothing else you want to mention on the games this week, guys.
No, good.
Nope, all good.
Good stuff then. So you can get your brains engaged for another quiz. So identical to format to the main game we played last time. So I'm going to tell you a player's points for the last 3 game weeks, and you'll get a first attempt when I tell you the points. I'll give you the fixtures they played. You'll get a second guess, but you'll get 1 point less. So if you get it the first time, you get 3 points. You get it after I give you who they played, you get 2 points. And then I will give you, what was the last one I gave you last time? I literally gave you the position, didn't I? Was the third one. Did we ever get to the last one last time? I think we did.
I think it was just a generic clue.
Yeah, depending
generic
on how
points,
much you've got, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we only got there once or twice, didn't we, last time?
Yeah.
But yeah, so you get 1 point if you get to that. So you remember how to play, both of you? You're fine with those rules?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Not been too long ago, so you can't forget that quick. Right, so Sam is currently winning 4-3, so I'm going to give Charlie the chance to put himself ahead and put some pressure on Sam by letting you go first. So, your first player, Charlie. In game week 6, they scored 8 points. In game week 7, they scored 10 points. And in game week 8, they scored 1 point.
It's quite a big return early on, but then 1 point would suggest. So the what you said 1 point was game week 8, so that's this game week just happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's probably one of those benchings.
Why would I do that? I'm not that mean, am
I? 8, 10, but 8 and 10 are quite big, so I'm probably assuming it's not a defender. Anyone that scored, who's scored in 2 successful weeks? What about? I don't even know where to start, to be honest. This first one's always a bit difficult,
you
isn't
can
it?
have a guess, and it should be a bit more clear.
Yeah, let's go with. We'll go with your man, Andros Townsend.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay.
So, right, we go through them again. So, when they scored 8 points, they were playing Southampton. When they got 10 points, they were playing Newcastle. Or when they got 1 point, they were playing Aston Villa.
Aston Villa. Who did Aston Villa play? They played Wolves. 1 point. Okay, so it was a benching, so it would have been Jimenez then.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So I did a benching, but I did a bench player that you didn't have. So it was kind of on your mind, but then not too obvious. Yeah, so he got a goal for the 8 points against Southampton. He got a goal and 2 bonus points. Newcastle, he got 2 assists and 2 bonus points. And then he came on as a sub, I think literally like in the 87th minute or something against Villa, just for the 1 point. It seems a bit late to bring him on when you're chasing from 2 goals down, but worked for him. That's 2 points for Charlie, so it's over to Sam. So Sam, your player in game week 6 scored 11 points. Game week 7 scored 8 points. Game week 8 scored 8 points again.
Okay.
So lots of points here.
Yeah. Well, I know 2 or 3 players that scored 8 points this week. I know Mane scored 8 points this week. I know Vardy scored 8 points this week. I think there's any other. Let's guess Vardy.
Yeah, that is correct.
Oh, get on.
I was looking at Mane and Vardy, to be fair, but I did Mane last week, and he's got.
Oh man, yes, elite mind games, elite. I was like, surely he's not going to give me Mane 2 weeks in a row. Oh,
yeah, because Mane's. I can't remember Mane's stats, but they're very similar to that. I don't think the last 2 game weeks. I don't think were 11 and 8. I think they were slightly different, but they're very close.
Mane, I don't think Mane got 11 against City. I think he
probably got similar to 8, like 8, 9 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
get on.
Yeah,
lucky guess.
You did well.
No, you're 8 pointers, boys. That's only because earlier on I was considering Vardy for the wildcard. I knew he got 8 points last week.
I know. I touched on him earlier as well. I'm like, try not to touch on too much. So he got 11. he got 11 points for scoring 2 goals and 3 bonus against Burnley. Against Crystal Palace, he scored a goal, got 2 bonus. And then against United, unfortunately, he got a goal and 2 bonus again. So that's 3 points for Sam. Puts Charlie on the back foot straight away.
As usual.
Yeah, right, back to Charlie. So your next player, Charlie, in game week 6, he scored 12 points. In game week 7, he scored 0. And in game week 8, he scored 6.
12.06. Oh, 6 is interesting. So that could be a clean sheet. Or it could be maybe a striker scoring, but no bonus. No, I'm guessing it's probably 12.06. That, to me, that sounds like a defender that maybe missed a game in between. 12.06. I 12.06. I have a sneaking suspicion I know who this is. In game week 6, game week 6, my main man, Joao Cancelo, got an assist and a clean sheet, which would have given him 12 points after the bonus as well. He got all bonus. I think it's Cancelo because he got benched the following week.
It is Cancelo, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't get benched.
Very
though.
nice.
He
But did he not get benched?
Yeah, he played against Liverpool. He lost
Yeah.
a point
Oh, because the -2.
and they got a yellow card.
Yeah.
So your
Very
logic was
nice.
bang on, but I said, well, slightly off on that second one, but I think that 12 point gave it away.
Looks like a defender's kind of the 6 especially is an odd score for anyone else other than maybe a striker that doesn't get bonus. Not to give my logical.
Yeah, so Charlie's explained them pretty well, the 6 and 7. So in game week 8 against Burnley, just got 6 points for the clean sheet and playing all the minutes. So yeah, there you go. You've matched Sam with your guess outright there. Making it too easy now. Look, you're getting too expert at this game, you both of you. Right, so back to Sam. So your player, Sam, in game week 6, he scored 2 points. In game week 7, he scored 10 points. And in game week 8, he scored 6 points.
0, 10, 6. Is that correct?
2, 10 and 6.
Sorry, 2, 10, 6.
Yeah.
Okay, 2, 10.
You made me think then. I was looking at it and I'm like...
Oh, fine. Okay. Yeah, sorry for that. 2, 10, 6. I mean, I feel like 10 is a weird number for a defender. And 6 is what, 90 minutes and a goal for a forward. So I'd be leaning slightly more towards a forward. Although I wonder how many points did Foden get last week against? Okay, I think I'm leaning more towards a forward. Trying to think, just because the point setup seems a bit more likely, but I can't think of anyone who sort of falls into that bracket. Who scored this weekend? 1 goal. Callum Wilson? I don't think that's right.
You're correct.
He hasn't played for 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, okay.
So in game week 6, when they got 2 points, they're playing Man City. Game week 7, when they got 10 points, they were playing Southampton. And game week 8, when they got 6 points, they were playing Brentford.
Okay. 2 points. Who was it in the 2 point when they're playing City? Sorry.
Yeah, Man City.
Yeah. Okay. Jeez, that's a tough one. Just trying to think how. I mean, Chilwell scored against Brentford, so it can't be him. I know he must have scored against Southampton because I heard them say that he scored in his last 3 games. I can't think who got the assist for the Chilwell goal. Maybe he's a defender then. Azpilicueta?
That is correct.
Nice.
I think that 10 set confused you, didn't it?
10 was so weird score for a defender.
Yeah, so Azpilicueta got 2 for playing. He got 2 assists, which gives you 6, and then 2 bonus points. So it gives you 2, 6, and 2.
Not a particularly familiar point.
Bit different, that one.
Yeah.
I was hoping that the 2 and the 6 would give you a bit of a guide, but then the 10 threw you off a bit.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you still got 2 points, so you both
take 2 points there. Yeah, that feels like damage limitation.
Yeah, so you both level after 2. So we go back to Charlie. So your next player, Charlie, in game week 6 got 8 points. In game week 7 got 3 points, and in game week 8 got 0.
Okay, so based on my previous logic, 3 implies a midfielder with a clean sheet. And I think that 8 would probably confirm that as well, because the only other 3 might be maybe a keeper making saves and no clean sheet, but an 8 sounds more like a midfielder than a keeper. The 0 in the game week just gone, so they were probably one of the benchings. 830. But it was one of the benchings that didn't come on, so it's not like Mount or one of the many that I had that came on for 1 point. 830. I've got to try to remember last week who got a clean sheet. I think Burnley, Norwich was 0-0. Can't really think of any midfielders that would have scored for either of those the week before. Brighton, Arsenal. That was a 0-0 the week before. But we've already had Saka's and the like of, so it can't be that. I think going on the logic that you're picking players that are somewhat relevant, which I think you've tried to do.
You never know. It could be someone random.
Well, yeah, no, I'm playing you now rather than playing the game. I think that you have gone with Rafinha because he didn't play this week. Leeds got a clean sheet against, it was Watford they played the week before. Did he get a goal the week before that? I think so. It was, don't remember who they played. They played, that was the West Ham game. Well, yeah, I don't have any other guesses, I guess, so I think that's the best I'm going to do. Rafinha.
That's correct.
Oh.
Yeah, when you started going on benching, I'm like, technically, it wasn't bench because you couldn't get back in time, but...
Yeah, well, yeah, so benching that didn't come on. That.
Yeah, same logic.
Same thing.
And you got all the fixtures right as well. He did score against West Ham.
West Ham, yeah.
And got 2 bonus points, and then clean sheet against Watford, and then didn't play against Southampton. That put Sam straight on the back foot again there.
I live on the back foot, mate. No worries.
Alright, back to Sam then. So, game week 6, this player scored 2 points. In game week 7, this player scored 1 point. And in game week 8, the player scored 7 points.
Crikey. Okay. 217, yeah?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's tough.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. I mean, 7 points. I can't remember too many strikers. Oh, I don't know, man. This is hard. The 7 points for a striker might look like a goal, 90 minutes, and one bonus or something like that, which is quite possible. There's no value in looking at the 1 and 2 points because that could be anyone. Try and break down the 7 points. So a midfielder, 7 points, I guess would be same. Goalkeeper, maybe. No. Seems unlikely. Man, you can't even position really break it down because defenders could if defenders didn't keep a clean sheet but got an assist or something or a goal. Okay, well, the only player in my team this week that got 7 points was Greenwood, but I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head. Actually, I know Danny Ings got 7 points as well. I know James Milner got 7 points. All right, let's just take a punt with Greenwood.
That's correct.
Correct. Wow.
Yeah.
The scenes.
There's a reason I gave it. Like I knew it was
Scenes. Live tells off the host.
Yeah, but I made it difficult because it was a bit more obvious because he's in Sam's team. So I was thinking that it would stick out a bit more to Sam. If I did it to Charlie, I don't think Charlie would have ever got it.
No, I definitely wouldn't have.
That is beyond ridiculous, to be honest. 4 of the 6 we got on the first clue. That's crazy.
Oh well, you're getting too good at this, you two. Right, so back to Charlie. So we're going to step up a notch here. So game week 6, this player got 1 point. Game week 7, this player got 5 points. And game week 8, this player got 1 point.
Getting regular ones is interesting. Not even sure who would get one. Someone that doesn't start very often and comes off the bench. Maybe a defender that concedes regularly.
Well, look at Old Trafford. There's plenty of them.
We just wouldn't get a clean sheet ever.
So five's a strange. I guess that could be a clean sheet and a yellow card. I think that's gonna be my best logic. So who got a clean sheet last week? Oh, that's the same fixtures that I talked through last time. So it would have been Burnley, Norwich was 0-0. Leeds got that 1-0. Brighton, Arsenal. But Arsenal's have had no, I don't know. Let's just take a guess at it can be a defender from one of those teams that got a clean sheet. I'm gonna guess at Matt Target.
That's incorrect.
Gamble, why not?
It's like, thank God we got past the first question.
Oh wait, I said the wrong name. I just realised I said the wrong name. I wasn't thinking of him, but no, that's fine. Carry on.
Okay, so the fixtures. So game week 6, they got 1 point against Leicester. In game week 7, they got 5 points against Norwich. And in game week 8, they got 1 point against Man City.
Yeah, it's Burnley. That's what I meant. I wasn't
Who
thinking
was you
about
going to
it.
say?
I was thinking either Lowton or like one of the fullbacks. I can't remember Lowton or who's the other one.
Hey, Taylor.
Thank you. Yep, thanks.
No worries. It's all right. Giving you all the help you can get.
I had Lowton, so I wonder if you're going off the same logic as Sam's one, as someone that we have. Did he definitely they got the clean sheet the last week because he was my one-off transfer. Did he pick up a card in that game? I don't remember. To be fair, most of the Burnley team picked up a card in that game, I think. I'm just going to go off the logic because you chose a player that's in Sam's team. I'm going to go for one that was in my team, so Lowton.
Yeah, that's correct. I can be
Game in the system.
being a bit sneaky at the same time. Make sure you check your own teams before we start these quizzes.
Yeah.
It was Lowton, yeah. So you got 1 point against Leicester because they conceded 2 goals. Norwich, you got the logic there, clean sheet and the yellow card, and then Man City they conceded 2 goals as well. So got there. I feel like that's probably what you might have said the first guess. It was either one of the fullbacks, wasn't it?
It was one of the fullbacks. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I think Taylor's out injured though. I think so. That might have gave it away a bit. Right. So back to Sam. Who is Sam's next one? Right. Back to you, Sam. So in game week 6, they scored 3 points. In game week 7, they scored 1 point. And in game week 8, they scored 6 points.
Okay. 6 points, hey? Right, so. Think about this. 6 points. We've got 6 points in my team this week. The 2 defenders.
We're using this logic now.
Well, I mean, Alexander-Arnold did and Livramento did. Although Livramento was used last week. I don't know. That's a bit sus. That's a bit sus, yeah.
Double bluff, maybe.
What was the score in the one before that? Sorry, so it was 3-1-6, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, fine. So basically, looking at non-clean. If it's a defender, it's non-clean sheets. Could be a forward, I guess. But it seems unlikely. It seems more likely it's going to be falling as a defender. Interesting. All right, well, let's take a punt. Alexander-Arnold.
That's incorrect.
Okay.
All right, so your fixtures are actually game week 6 played against Brentford to get 3 points. Game week 7 played against Man City to get 1 point. Game week 8 played against Watford to get 6 points. So close.
Oh, wow. Okay. 3 points against Brentford. Not many Liverpool defenders got 3 points against Brentford. In fact, not many defenders get 3 points when you concede 3 goals, end of. Okay, so the 4. So Trent started at right back, Robertson started at left back, Van Dijk was partnered by Matip. So I guess it's got to be someone who got an assist. I don't think Robertson scored. Who scored? Jones scored. Salah scored. I don't think any of the defenders scored. No, Jota scored. Okay, so that rules out goals. I'm trying to reimagine the goals in my head. Jota's goal was a header from the ball in from the right, so I guess it's not what we know. It's not Trent, and Van Dijk and Matip aren't going to be putting crosses in. I can't really remember what Salah's goal was like. Let's go for. I mean, Robertson's more likely to get an assist than any of the other two, so we'll go for Robertson. Nice.
Yeah, and I thought that 3, like, because there's a 3 and a 6 in there, I thought you'd get like stuck. Is it a midfielder? Is it a defender?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking defender there, to be fair. I was thinking maybe a goalkeeper, but obviously it couldn't be.
Goalkeeper's a good
Once
shout.
it was Liverpool, obviously it couldn't be.
Didn't even consider a goalkeeper.
Yeah, so he got
Good
3.
shout.
He got 3 points because he got an assist. He played 90 minutes, but he got a yellow card and he conceded 2 goals, or more than 2 goals.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, he did well to get that. To be fair, he got the team straight away. When you said Trent, I'm like, he's got the team straight away there. Right, back to Charlie. So you're both level and you've got 1 player left. So don't draw. That's all I'm saying.
Big one.
Right. So your last player, Charlie, in game week 6 scored 2 points. In game week 7 scored 6 points. In game week 8 scored 5 points.
Okay. 265. So to me, that's probably a defender that got 2 successive clean sheets, but also yellow in the last one. Or it could have been, I guess, a forward getting a goal and then an assist in the following week. Defender sounds more likely. 265. Who've had successive clean sheets? No. Trying to think back. Leeds won't have because they didn't keep a clean sheet this time. Norwich have kept 2 clean sheets, but I'm not even sure what player I would even pick from them. I'm not even sure I know their defenders. Maybe it's not a defender then. 265. That's a hard one. I'm going to take a stab in the dark at not even sure if this makes sense to go with, but I'm just going to guess Jared Bowen. I feel like he's returned in 2 weeks, but
No, that's incorrect. So in game week 6, this player played Crystal Palace to score 2 points. In game week 7, this player played Arsenal to get 6 points. And in game week 8, this player played Norwich to get 5 points.
Right, so that's a Brighton player then. 265. 265. 5 means I don't think it can be Sanchez because he got made saves. No, he didn't. I don't think he got saves, but I think he just got his standard 6. So it's probably one of the defenders. 265. I know Veltman didn't get anything because he came off with a yellow card, I think, and before they got to the 60. Lamptey came on, so he wouldn't have got 5. And then it's down to Burn, Duncan, Duffy. I'm just gonna go. I don't think it'll be Burn because I doubt he would get those. I think it's going to be Duffy.
Correct.
Very nice.
Did well to narrow it down then.
one of
Very
three.
nice.
Just went with the most prominent FPL option out of them.
Yeah, it threw you off on the first bit, at least. Got one question out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did well to narrow it down with the defenders, so then it piles all the pressure onto Sam for the last one.
I got it the first time.
Yeah, he's got to get it first time. You can't get
Right.
this. Yeah, so Charlie got 2 points.
Otherwise, we draw.
Of course, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
It should be a fun one for you as well. So, game week 6, this player scored 2 points. Game week 7, this player scored 6 points. Game week 8, this player scored 4 points.
Interesting. 2, 6, 4. Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, cool. Hmm. 2, 6, 4.
I'd be highly impressed if you guessed this on the first one.
I can't think of many players off the top of my head that scored 4 points this week. I don't think if anyone kept a clean sheet. Well, it doesn't even have to be a defender, does it? Let's try and think of clubs that haven't yet been represented today.
Mind games there.
I don't think we've had a Spurs player. I don't think we've had a Newcastle player. They're only in the forefront of my mind because I just spent 90 minutes watching them. I don't know. I really don't know anyone that's scored 4 points this week on the top of my head. Trying to think. I mean, Mankilo might have scored 4 points, but I don't know if he got booked. I don't know. I don't even know if he did score 4 points. Just try and pluck something. Iheanacho?
Incorrect. So your fixtures. So game week 6 to get 2 points, they played Man United. Game week 7, they played Spurs to get 6 points. And game week 8, they played Wolves to get 4 points.
Okay. I think I know who this is then. Is it Watkins?
Yeah, it is Watkins.
Nice. Okay.
You have to draw
Double return in the Wolves game.
How did he get the 4 points? I guess an assist and card.
Yeah, he got
Well,
yeah.
I don't think there's anyone else that.
Card,
That's been
yeah, that's how he got
it's
it.
a weird
yeah.
one for a striker.
Yeah, I agree. Right, why have you managed to draw again, both of you? You're not very good forgiving for my quizzes, are you? I'm trying to think if I can do a quick kind of deciding one. Like, how can you're just too closely thought out, you two. You're doing me head in with your like closeness. We might have to call it a tie this time. I'm going to put it on your record as 4-3 to Sam with 1 draw.
Half a point each.
Yeah, could do that. Well, it's probably easy to leave it 4-3. I've written it down anyway. You just got to stop drawing, you two. I was like, I thought some of them were quite more difficult than others, but you still managed to draw. Well,
why don't you tiebreaker concept? Why don't you think of a player?
Yeah,
we've got to get to that player, and we each get a question and then a guess or whatever. I don't know.
We'll just do like a closest to maybe on something.
Yeah. I'll do it.
Pick
I'm
total score or something.
Yeah,
pick a player.
Pick a player. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've got to know the total score. Yeah.
Right. Let me see someone who you're not going to be able to just easily have known off the top of your head. I feel like I'm going to go into this category for that. Right, yeah. So Arsenal are playing tomorrow, and probably arguably their biggest attacking threat against them will be Wolves. So would you both like to give me an estimate of how many points he's scored in total this season? So if I go to Charlie first, because I was letting you go first before, and you both, well, I don't know, because it's easier for the second person, isn't it? If I do it like that, because then you've got a marker.
Yeah, true, but I don't mind. But I'm gonna have to speak internally now then, and not give my logic out loud. Okay. I am gonna guess. Hmm. 28.
Okay, written that down. What do you think, Sam?
That is just insane. Because the number I have written down on the piece of paper in front of me is 28. But
is that actually?
I swear to God, that is insane. It's definitely not. I would find it hard to think he's got 40 points. But then I feel like he's got more than. It's going to be around that 30 mark. 28. What has he done? Palace had such a bad start. Like, no, he had a positive return in the Tottenham game. I can't even remember. Like, Palace is open. He can't have got more than like 3 points in the opening few games. So let's say he got a 3, a 2, and a 1. So that's 6. Spurs, pretty sure he got a goal. 6 and say 8-ish. 14. This is tough. I'm gonna take the unders on 28. I'll go for 27.
Oh, you talked yourself out of it.
I did.
Yeah, it's 31.
Oh no, that's painful. That's pain.
Yeah, I think Charlie's number put you in doubt a bit because you
honestly, yeah.
I just went for because they played 7 games, so 2 points per game, and then doubled it just to allow for whatever he's done. I don't remember him doing much.
So it was that big Tottenham game.
The only game, the Tottenham game. I maybe got an assist in that game.
Yeah,
as well.
And Brighton as well because he always scores against Brighton.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, he got a goal and assist and 2 bonus against Spurs, so he got 12 points in one game.
12 points in that game, wow.
Yeah, and then Brighton he got 8 points because a goal and 1 bonus, and he also got a clean sheet against Brentford. But yeah, that is
glad we played a tiebreaker.
That was very painful though. I feel like Sam was going higher and he talked himself out of it.
Yeah,
I could not think of how I wouldn't even have seen. I don't know. I've spent a lot of time this afternoon, whilst recovering from the stag do at the weekend, looking through FPL midfielders, and I feel like I would have seen him if it was higher up. But oh well, maybe I was still a bit wavy. Who knows?
Well, that's why I went for midfielders because there's so many in that.
Yeah.
Because there's like 10 between 29 and 34. It's loads. Yeah,
no, fair enough.
But yeah, it makes it interesting because it makes it 4-4 now.
4.
Back level, as always.
Back level.
It wouldn't have been a fair went 5-3. I think you did it on purpose there, Sam.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, that's good. That was good again. So we'll move on to actually speak about the next game week. So it's actually it feels like we're flying through the game weeks at this point because we'll be moving on to game week 9 next week. And I feel like we've had a main talking point that Sam has brought up about him being on a wildcard. So I think it's a bit impolite if we don't start with your wildcard draft, Sam. So do you want... Well, I think you should tell us your goalkeeper and defence you're thinking about, and then we'll talk about that area and then move on to different areas, if that's all right.
Yeah, okay, no problem. So firstly, just like pretty pleased to be able to have a little bit of flexibility coming back off the international break. And this team is 90% set, barring one position and obviously Champions League injury dependent on a couple of players. But as long as no one gets injured of any real stature during the week, then this will be the team or the squad that goes forward, I guess. I have really enjoyed having Sanchez for the first half of the season. Just been like a really good value goalkeeper, really. But for similar reasons as to what Charlie was saying earlier, I feel Brighton are about to go on a tough couple of games. I think they got City at home, Liverpool away. Can't see clean sheets in those games. And I was desperate to try and build the defence around. I wanted double Chelsea and I wanted double City. But I'm also a massive fan of Livramento, his fixtures, and Trent is undroppable. So by that basis, there just wasn't enough space to get many players in. So I've used goalkeeper position to accommodate one of the double Chelsea or double City. So I've gone with Edison as my numero uno in this wild card. Quite expensive
when you said that. But...
Yeah, I just feel like with Edison, and this is going to sound kind of crazy, but there is the outside chance of an assist.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
Mendy
and Edison again.
Potential.
Yeah, but I don't want to block the triple Liverpool. So, no, in all seriousness, no. I've got a triple Chelsea already. I'm pretty happy with those guys coming in. So I've basically just gone for Edison to get that double Man City defence, and then Foster's going to take the reins as the 4.0, fodder guy, if you like.
Yeah.
Kind of spelt out what the rest of it is. The undroppable Alexander-Arnold. I've been really looking forward to getting Cancelo in, so he comes in. And we talked quite a lot last week about Chelsea defenders, and I basically sat here and said, don't consider Chilwell because of rotation and whatever. Chilwell's in. And I think it was you actually, Will, who I quite like Chalobah as an option because I don't think Chalobah's going to be trusted too much in Champions League games. And with Chelsea's run in the Premier League, I think he might actually just consistently play. But I think you were an advocate for Azpilicueta in terms of his potential attacking returns. And I think in terms of ownership going forward, Azpilicueta is going to be picked up more than Chalobah is. I've gone for Azpilicueta at the moment, but that is the one that I'm considering between him and Chalobah. So it's not exactly a crazy decision to make.
Yeah.
But my head is saying Azpilicueta is probably the sensible one. But I've got a feeling that Chalobah might be a really good differential, so I'm not completely ruling that one out just yet. And then Livramento's in there as well. I think he, it's just offered exceptional value the whole season along. His next 4 games are something like Burnley, Watford, Norwich. There's someone else in there. I know Southampton haven't exactly looked like sensational, and I think we were talking the other day about how their lineup sort of screamed relegation. But then, we've also got the fact that they just grind out a 1-0 win at home to Leeds. I know Leeds was severely depleted, but if Livramento can continue to get some returns, he's probably going to be either the 5th defender in maybe a 5-back. But I'm certainly committing to a 4-back from here on in. And in the week where maybe, I don't know, like one of the City players or one of the Chelsea players are less likely to keep a clean sheet, maybe when they play each other, then it'll be a useful man to have around. So Edison, Foster in net, and then the back 5 of, at the moment, Chilwell, Azpilicueta, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, and Livramento.
Very interesting. Yeah. Chalobah. Yeah, I get what you mean.
There's something about Chalobah, and like he certainly offers attacking threat from set piece. I'm from what I've seen, I think he's probably more in favour than Sarr Well, the side did play very well against Brentford, but I think he's probably more in favour there. There's just questions over Thiago Silva's like conditioning as to whether or not he can go a large number of games. And like Thiago Silva's the guy who you probably want, available for your big games, maybe your Champions League games. And Chelsea, I think I'm right in saying Chelsea lost to Juventus in the Champions League, so that they've only got one win out of two so far. So their group is, they're not exactly in the ultimate position in their group. They're not in a bad spot. Reece James is the other one that I considered, but James was benched this week, and although there's not quite as much obvious direct competition at right back, I think it's quite obvious that Azpilicueta is trusted massively by Tuchel. So I think, and obviously he's captain, so it's going to be tough to flick the switch on the M1 there. Mm-hmm. But 4.8 for Chalobah versus 6.1 for Azpilicueta, that is a 1.3 million saving there. That I don't foresee myself using straight away, but my strategy for going into the end of the season now, or particularly until January, is just going to be have some funds available. And the selection I've gone for in midfield and attack allows me to have funds available. If someone is just in form, I can just bring them in. Like, don't even have to move around with double transfers or anything like that. So I've got a bit in the bank as well.
Yeah, I think when you say Chalobah and Chilwell, I just think straight away that you could easily see a team sheet that doesn't have either of them in it. That's the only bit that kind of scares me about having both of them. They're both quite risky. I would argue you kind of want the one nailed and then going a bit risky. Because I would argue that James is more nailed than Chilwell. And James was only on the bench because he's only just come back from fitness.
That's possible, yeah. I would have argued that Chilwell wasn't nailed as well, probably up until after the Brentford game, because apart from the fact that he scored again, and I don't think Tuchel's picking his fullbacks based on are they going to score. But Chilwell's just looked better each game going on. I know Alonso's obviously a very handy alternative to have. But Chilwell why are you keeping clean sheets and the guy's scoring goals? It's kind of undroppable. So I don't know. I can't really. Yeah. I'm okay with Chilwell.
The other thing with that is historically Chilwell's either started or not come on. Because as we saw this weekend, James is the one that tends to get brought on if they need an extra wing back. So in terms of just him and then having Livramento as a backup, then I think that works really well. But like you said, Will, I think the issue may come with having both him and Chalobah. There's the potential for them both to not play. But certainly at least Chilwell, and I like the idea of having Chilwell and then Livramento as an option.
Yeah, I feel like if Rudiger was fit, you'd probably go for Rudiger instead of Azpilicueta because you know he's going to start and he's a little bit cheaper.
I think that's that's safe to say that would be the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's difficult as well because you've got Champions League games and everything between these games. Like if they were just playing Premier League the whole time, you could say Chilwell's going to start them all, but then how are they going to work it between the Champions League? I'd also note though that Chelsea's next two Champions League games are the easiest two games against Malmo. So I don't know if that means they're going to play Alonso because he's not as good defensively, but you could take that comment either way, can't you? With some of these team selections we're seeing, could be anyone playing.
I guess the other advantage of just having Azpilicueta in there as a 6.1 asset is that it just basically enables you to switch to almost whoever you want, whenever you want. Whereas if you go for the 4.8 Chalobah, in some setups it might cap your potential upgrade. Or sideways movement or whatever. But I'm pretty happy with the balance of it so far.
Yeah, it seems pretty strong in defence. You got any other comments about it, Charlie?
I guess the only other thing that raised any eyebrows for me personally was the keeper. I think we all have a reluctance to pick an expensive keeper, but I mean of the ones to pick, obviously Ederson's a good one who would expect to get lots of clean sheets. I guess if it was me, and not that obviously it's going to reflect in what I've chosen in my team because that's my opinion. I think I would prefer as a pair, if you were going to go Azpilicueta, I'd prefer Diaz and Mendy to Ederson and Azpilicueta. Reason being on Mendy's number of saves, and that's not just influence. Obviously, he had a great weekend this last weekend, but actually just does tend to make more saves than Ederson does. I was just looking whilst we were talking. and the number of saves he made this weekend, he's matched that on 2 other occasions as well, which was 6 saves. He matched it, he did that on 2 other occasions. So I think with Ederson, you're basically getting a 6-pointer or 2 on the rare occasions where they don't keep a clean sheet. Whereas I think with Mendy, there is that potential just to get that a little bit more, and maybe bonus, because Chelsea seem to be set up to be quite low scoring. There's the potential more for bonus on Mendy. But again, I guess,
do you not think that there's a potential? Basically, I think having Kepa as a number 2 is a potential opportunity for rotation if you needed it. I feel like Kepa as a number 2 is better than Stefan as a number 2 for Man City. Like Ederson's basically, I mean, Mendy's obviously first choice, no escaping that. But if you've got Juventus in the Champions League on the Wednesday, and you're playing on the Sunday, I don't know if Mendy's going to play both games, of which you might fancy Mendy for the Champions League game. I guess depends who they're playing in the league, but I see your point. I take your point. Maybe that's an option to get the second City defender in instead of, say, Chilwell, for example. But I quite like Chilwell as an option. It's a very valid point. Yeah, can't really argue with it.
Yeah, I think when you said premium keeper, I was expecting you to say Mendy. Very similar to what Charlie said, because I was even looking at his saves. He even got a save point against Arsenal, and I can't imagine Arsenal had a lot of shots in that game. But yeah, that's one to think about. I was thinking he was going to say Mendy, but either way, there's still a slight bit of risk, because everyone would have said Diaz was nailed before, but it doesn't mean he's nailed now, does it? Still,
thing is, as well, like with Chelsea's fixtures, I can't imagine that Mendy's going to face too many shots against Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley, maybe against Leicester, Man United.
That's a good point.
Maybe you can make the same kind of case for Ederson. Maybe he's not going to get too many shots against Brighton or Palace. I don't know. I think maybe it's 6 of 1. I've got this like unfortunate feeling in my gut that Man City are about to go on a Man City run, where they just win 15 games, and no one can do anything about it. You just got to suck it up. It's going to happen at some point during the season. And I guess it doesn't really matter which defensive asset you have in there, other than Cancelo might get rotated around a little bit, but it seems unlikely. I don't know. I think I'm probably going to stick with Ederson, but definitely some kind of consideration for Mendy should probably be advised before the deadline.
Yeah, I think a key point is with any City and Chelsea defender, I don't think any of them would play every single game, and until you go to a wild card or something again. Like even Cancelo is going to be dropped at some stage, because he's literally especially when you get to December, they're not going to play every single fixture. So I think that's why having that Livramento or whatever it is as your backup defender is always a good thing to have. But I think it's important to have that strong squad as well, even more so, as we saw last season, with COVID impacts. I know a lot of people thought took Son out of their wildcard this week because there was reports that he had COVID, and then that was apparently untrue because he got a false test or something. So there's a lot of indecision. So always having that backup player, especially when you've got such value in Livramento, allows you to take that risk on a Chilwell. So it'll be good to see. I'm excited to see your defence. It sounds good either way. Should we move on to
see what happens?
Should we move on to midfield? I feel like we've questioned your defence quite a lot. I feel like midfield's probably going to get more questions.
Midfield's probably going to get absolutely decimated. I'm not going to lie. So Salah stays, obviously.
Yeah.
Other than that, the only other player who stays is Brownhill. He'll just be there to rot on the bench, probably. But having said that, there is an argument to say that these utility players, Brownhill's probably proven to be the most effective 2-point tick over utility player so far, and he's dropped in value. So, having him there at 4.4 is fine with me. Rafinha comes in just because Leeds, as tough as it has been to get any kind of real feeling for Leeds this season, Rafinha has basically been involved in any goal threat that they've had this season. So his numbers are still very, very good, and for that reason, I can't in my opinion, I can't risk Leeds clicking all of a sudden and not having him because he's got such high ownership as well. And Buemo comes in for a Brentford midfielder. Again, I really like his numbers, and Charlie made a valid point last week about how, and I noticed it very much or very apparent in the Chelsea game. And if you're playing what is so far probably the best team in the league so far this season, and he's still managing to get runs in behind or just get in the right areas time after time for the flick-ons, then if he could finish, he could have had a couple of goals against Chelsea. So Buemo comes in. Brentford's fixtures just really turn me on for the next 7 or 8 weeks as well. I think there's going to be chances for them to, they've got a really decent run of fixtures now, and then they just don't really have any more decent runs until game week 25, I think it is, or something like that. So I'm not saying he'll be in forever, but at 5.5, what's the worst that can happen? Really, is the attitude there. And then we come to a slightly spicy one. In Andros Townsend comes in.
Follows my advice eventually.
Townsend comes in over Demarai Gray. I just think over the last few weeks, he made a very valid point when Gray made an excellent start to the season about there will be a retraction. And I think Townsend's sort of graph or numbers input graph is just sort of a steady riser, whereas Gray's is sort of dancing around all over the place. I like Townsend. I like Everton's fixtures for starters for the next, while, really. And for the formations that I'm going to be picking, whether I go 4-4-2 or 5-3-2, there's flexibility that I don't even necessarily need to play all of these midfielders in one go. So Townsend's the kind of player that I don't mind having in for just having in the squad for a bit of flexibility going down there. And another argument at his price point of 5.6 is sort of what is the worst that can happen? I know there's that midfield 5, apart from Salah and take Brownhill out, you got the other 3, all kind of very similar, not like a bulk points returner. I was sort of toying with and really keen with the idea of getting De Bruyne in, because I just feel like De Bruyne might go on a tear now. Fernandes has been in and a really good option in terms of points ticking over. I'm just going to back my instinct on these 3. Brentford's fixtures for me are the turning point on why Buemo has to come in. Rafinha's numbers are so good, quite high ownership anyway. And then there's not too many other options between the 5 and 6 million price point that really make me think that there's a lot better than Townsend out there. And he might not return. He might return, but he's sort of the punt. I can see Townsend scoring against Watford next week, so he's going to start. I'll put that one out there.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Charlie, or do you want? I feel like we could benefit if you tell us the forwards as well, because then we can see the kind of cost spread as well.
Yeah,
because you've got
no worries.
A lot of value midfielders, haven't we? So I want to know what you've got up top.
So I haven't exactly got massive. I've got Lukaku. He comes in basically almost if you're wildcarding now and not bringing in Lukaku for Norwich, whoever they're playing over the next 10 games, I think it's just an error.
Yeah.
And then really, I wanted to go. I really wanted to go Vardy, and then fodder forward, but I'm 0.2 million away from being able to do that. And it's we've all sat there when you're so close to getting when you just click the last player and it's red by 0.1 or red by 0.2. It's the most soul destroying reason. So I've gone for Lukaku. I've got Tony because, as I said before, Brentford's fixtures are so good. If Brentford are going to score, I think there's a very high chance that it's going to involve either Mbeumo or Tony in some facet. Tony obviously on pens, so another decent option there. And the third striker is Hwang. He is in so I didn't have Antonio in. I wanted to get Antonio or Vardy in that lineup. And I wasn't prepared to take Tony out with Brentford's fixture runs. So Hwang comes in, leaving some money in the bank for additions if needed. And this is probably going to line up as a 4-4-2 for next week, with Tony and Lukaku up top, Salah, Townsend, and Buemo Rafinha, and then the two Chelsea guys could Cancelo, Trent. I think that's the plan.
How much have you got in the bank out of interest?
I have 2.1 in the bank.
Okay. What do you think of that then, Charlie?
I don't mind it. I think that I quite like the front line. Maybe not so much Huang anymore. I'm just a bit put off with the potential rotation. I think he's done well enough to keep him for now, but the kind of options they have does allow for coming in and out. But then again, the price he's at, that's kind of what you probably expect. I think Sam kind of already made the point himself that the midfield feels a bit light, but then you're kind of banking on the value and the players at that price. Do you have any plans for that money in the bank at the moment? Is there any long-term plan as to what that's going for, or just to pick up
There
whatever
will be, so basically it's going to be game, well, I've literally written down in my notes, injury management up until game week 15, where if United have sacked Ollie, then CR7 will come in. Rashford could support Vardy, or CR7/Rashford coming in. Rashford, as opposed to CR7, could potentially support Vardy coming in as well. But that would be an unbelievably expensive front line. It's tough. I don't have like a set transfer plan as of yet off the back of this, because I only really put it together this afternoon. So a long-term aim of maybe if United sort their life out, moving towards a United asset around game week 15. Other than that, I don't. The one thing I like about the rotation players that have done well at the start of this season so far is, other than international break, there's no real reason for any of them, and injury, there's no real reason for any of them to miss any Premier League games. Like, none of them are involved in Europe, and then you get an element of consistency. If these teams are doing well, they're all big enough names for their clubs to retrospectively start. I hear what you're saying with Huang about rotation, but like, his numbers have like built as opposed to going the other way, in terms of like, he started, I think his first appearance was like game week 3 or maybe game week 4, where he came off the bench. Then he came off the bench, I think, again against Brentford, and since then he started like the last 3 games. I know he scored 2 goals against Newcastle. Newcastle's defense not that great. And I didn't actually watch the Villa Wolves game, so I'm not quite 100% sure on his involvement there. But Wolves as a team, I think, are growing. I don't see any reason why Huang would necessarily just be cut off. They've sort of built him into the team at this moment in time, anyway.
Yeah, I think my thoughts about it, I quite like the midfield. I think your first 4, we'll take Townsend out of that. Then the other 4, I think that would be the perfect 4 that I'd be going for. I agree with what we said about Mbeumo before. Rafinha has got a good 10-week run. Obviously, Salah's always going to be there. I think it's just in midfield, the Townsend one. I understand you thinking that he's going to... I like it the next 2 or 3 weeks, but then when Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin are back, I don't particularly like it, because I don't think he's going to start every game. But because we don't have the news on when they're going to be back, I quite like it for the next few weeks, but then I'd be wanting to get rid. And I was going to make the point, until you said what you've got in the bank, that because all your players are kind of a similar value, like quite a low value midfield, you're going to struggle to, if you ever want to go up to a 7, 8, 9 million kind of player, you're going to struggle there. But you have got that bit in the bank. But it was just a thought. And you said about Huang, but I'm not 100% about him always starting as well. Because obviously you've got Jimenez, Adama, Podence has come back and he looked pretty sharp in that Villa game. I think Trincao actually got COVID, which
I think
gave him a
Trincao
chance.
has COVID, yeah.
Yeah, so there was an argument that Huang might not even start that game if Trincao didn't have COVID, and obviously had Jimenez to come in there as well. So I'm not sure Huang's as nailed as we think he is with all their attacking options. So yeah, I think the downside was Townsend, Huang, and then about having Tony and Mbeumo. If you thought that was putting too many eggs in one basket, I'd have got a good run, but I get what you're doing. You're covering both because you know one of them will get the returns, aren't you? That's why you're doing it.
Basically, yeah. I don't necessarily mind the. In fact, I don't mind the double Brentford. They've made such a good start to the season. Like, I expect there will be a drop off at some point. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I don't have a problem with that. The next like 7 or 8 weeks for Brentford essentially are where they're going to pick up a lot of points before then they just go on like a bit of a grim run. Really, I'm fine with both of them in. I think they've both shown enough that there's not really too many strikers around that like 6.4 that Tony's at that sort of make you think, yeah, I really want that player. The other alternative, I guess, to the Hwang situation would be like a fodder striker, and then I don't know, someone like a Foden or something like that. But that definitely eliminates the financial flexibility going forward. If you're doing that, because then you're taking that like decent asset there. I've already gone triple Chelsea, so Mount wasn't an option. I don't like the Man United asset quite so much. I like Greenwood was a good shout this week, like you said, because he was coming off international duty when he hadn't gone, whereas a lot of the others had. Rashford sort of knocking around again, so I don't know if he's going to get too many more starts in there. Pep Roulette's kind of a tough one to play with, and then you're looking at like Zaha, Ben Rama, who's been in since the start of the season, but as you guys correctly pointed out at the start of the season, will probably retract to the norm at some point. Saka, Yuri Tielemans did kind of float around the idea of, but Leicester haven't exactly got a great run of fixtures, and I don't really know, other than looking if there's too many other like options that offer same kind of returns that Townsend does over the coming weeks, and I might well be very wrong. And if I am, I hold my hands up and say, that was a bit of a blunder. But I'm gonna take a stab with Townsend. I think
Yeah.
I've got my heart set on it, despite what you two are saying. I've got my heart set on it, so I think we're probably gonna go for it. And like the other option was that Vardy in a striker instead of Tony, and like a fodder striker to go with him. I'm literally like 0.2 short of doing that. So the other thing you could do is like, I don't know, drop Townsend down to another fodder midfielder, but then you're really basically relying on Livramento to play every week in a 5-back that you're forced into every week, which is kind of a bit intense, I think. So yeah, some decisions to.
On that, something I was going to add, and I was waiting to see hear the full team before determining this, but I think the other thing that's always put me off going for a premium keeper is that feels like the most obvious way to get funds and you don't want to end up making a transfer for the keeper. But if I was looking when we were talking about keepers, what the difference was between some of these players, Ramsdale's currently 10 points behind Ederson, and he's played 3 less games. Sanchez is within 5 points of Ederson. And that's always been, I think, my reason for not going for these premium keepers is the difference between the 4.5s and the 6s has always been quite small. Although to be fair, this year we haven't seen like the equivalent of like a Martinez or a Pickford a few years ago, and these kind of, or Pope. We haven't seen that like one breakout keeper necessarily, but generally the variance has been quite small for the money that you're paying.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if that money, if you downgraded Ederson and maybe look into another way into Man City's defence if you still wanted the double up, as well as the money you've got in the bank. But then at the same time, I do wonder, because looking at my own team, I was wondering, well, actually, what options are there necessarily? Like you say, you've got maybe Foden, you've got Mount potentially, but they're by no means guarantees, and on the short term, maybe not necessarily better options than the ones you've talked about. But yeah, I think it is just. But I think just that one value player too much for me personally. But if obviously if you like it, then I think you should go for it. But yeah, for me personally, I think it's just too many at that lower price range where ultimately, and they don't always get it right, but the way they're priced is because they're players that are streaky and aren't necessarily consistent returners.
Yeah.
Which is why really I only like to have one or two, generally speaking. So I think, yeah, that would be my only point, would be coming back to the goalkeeper now, saying, looking at that team, would be saying, actually, maybe you can get extra funds from that plus the money in the bank to upgrade somewhere else. But like I said, I'm not necessarily sure where that would go now, other than, like you say, Vardy or someone else up front. But yeah, interesting to see how it pans out if you do go for that, because technically you could be jumping on all these really good value assets that will start increasing in price if they do go well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I quite like it. I'm not going to lie, Sam. It's just that point, kind of what Charlie's touched on as well. Like I think it's mainly that midfield spot, because if there's a high value midfielder that comes in to the game that you want, you're not going to get rid of Salah, and kind of your structure, you need to have at least two, and you don't really want to be making a third move to like downgrade your keeper. So I do get what Charlie's saying there. It's all just guesswork, isn't it? Because like a Mount or someone, for example, could come into good form, and we want them straight in the team. But
of course, yeah,
it's just guessing at this stage, isn't it? But you've got that flexibility with the 2 million in the bank anyway, so you probably feel comfortable having that as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. That was an unexpected chat with Sam's draft ready for us. I like that. Thank you for doing that, Sam.
No worries. The other option is to bring in Mankilo to cover off Pete. Option quickly disregarded.
I'm not sure. I think that's more luck than judgment, that play there. I think just looking for a 4 million and got that. So that's covered your transfer plans. Have you got any transfer plans yet, Charlie? I know the game week's not completely finished, but anything you're eyeing up for next week?
Well, hopefully nothing. I think if you're coming off the back of a wildcard making transfers, you're probably not in a great position. So subject to obviously European football and whatever happens tomorrow night as well, and any late press conference news. Hopefully carrying over the transfer and then making as I said, my team should be in theory set up for quite a while, so I wouldn't necessarily have to make any key transfers. So I can just kind of react to what comes up and injuries or any flavour of the month. So yeah, nothing for this week, hopefully, unless anything comes up during the week.
Yeah, I'm definitely on Operation Get Man United players out of my team. So it's Shaw or Greenwood on the chopping block for me. Most likely it's going to be Shaw, I think. Because, well, whichever one I don't get rid of, they're going to get benched against Liverpool anyway, and I feel like we're more likely to scrap a goal with Greenwood on the break or a wonder goal than Shaw keeping a clean sheet at the minute. So my kind of booked-in transfer this week will be Shaw to someone, but I'll definitely be making a transfer. I'm not going to be rolling it because I feel like the team kind of needs it. But like I've said, I feel like keep using the transfer. I might get to one point where I can save 2, but at the minute I'm just fighting some fires and trying to keep the wild card in my pocket as long as possible. I think we made the point last time about if you should be wild card or not. I feel like I've got like 3 or 4 issues, but I feel like I need a few more to make me want to press the wildcard button, so I'm just trying to fight some fires, which is probably not the best way to be doing it, because I should really be attacking weeks, but at the minute I'm just putting out some fires in the size of Man United assets, but hopefully we get through it all right. I'm a lot happier with this week than I was last week, so we'll see. I think that was a big thing for me. I think I had one of the weeks earlier on in the season as well, didn't I, where I did terrible, and I'm like, I'm going to have to press the wildcard. I'm surprised I didn't press it after last week, to be fair. So I'm holding on to it. I'm stubborn this time. But yeah, so I think we'll start with the captaincy question for the next game week, and then we'll just feed on some fixtures from that. So Sam, looking at next week, is there a standout captaincy option for you?
I think the standout is for Lukaku, Norwich at home. Probably back him to get a couple of goals there. Having said that, it is still difficult to, no matter, I know it's Manchester United away, it's difficult to look past Salah in the form he's in at the minute. In that, I'm just almost certain he's going to score. And if you're going into a game week thinking you're almost certain someone's going to score, why would you not captain that player? I think brain says Lukaku at home to Norwich is, if you're ever going to captain Lukaku, you captain him when he's at home to the bottom of the league. But yeah, I don't know, just a little bit unsure on that one at the minute. But I think it's probably going to be Lukaku. Like bringing him in on the wild card to not captain him against bottom of the league kind of seems.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's the big debate this week, isn't it, between those two? I think
I can sit here now. I will be amazed if Salah doesn't score against Man United, even if it's a penalty. I'll be amazed.
Yeah, there'll have to be some massive shift in the performance of both teams for that not to happen.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it's that if Lukaku is against kind of a mid-table team, you're not as scared of that upside, are you? But the fact it's against Norwich, and well, I'm not overly convinced by Chelsea's attacking assets because they don't seem to score loads of goals. They seem to be happy when they get to like 2-0. They won't particularly go out for more goals. That's a bit of an issue I have with Lukaku long term, but see, can't really back against him against Norwich. But he hasn't scored in the last few either, so there is some doubt in my head around that. What is your thinking at the minute, Charlie?
Yeah, obviously, same conundrum, really. The two of those, Lukaku and Salah. I think Lukaku has been quite unlucky, to be honest, not to get returns recently. And Werner's introduction has probably played a part in that. If a lot of the time, despite the fact that ultimately the plan is that Werner runs on and makes that run in behind, they do quite often end up in the same place and kind of getting in each other's way, like, particularly when Chelsea have possession and are trying to break a team down rather than on a counter, because obviously counter they're a bit more spread out. But when they've got the ball, they tend to make the same sort of run and go into the same areas. And like, for example, I don't think it happened this week, but the week before, when one of Timo Werner's goals, he scored when Lukaku was right behind him, and it would have fallen to Lukaku if Werner wasn't in the way. So he has been unlucky, and I will be interested just to see what the lineup looks like for Chelsea midweek. If Werner's starting that and maybe Lukaku's not, that might just give me that little extra push to firm it up with Lukaku and in the possibility of Werner not playing, because I think that would actually improve Lukaku's chances of scoring if Werner doesn't play at the weekend. But yeah, I mean, I'm similarly to Sam. I can't see Salah not getting a goal against this Man United team. Be interesting to see. I don't know what the thing is with Varane at the moment. Whether he's, I don't know if you know if he's back soon or midweek or at the weekend.
He'll be there for the Liverpool game. Okay. I can tell you that now. They always find a way to get him back for the Liverpool game.
Who will obviously make a difference, but ultimately what we're seeing is the lack of defensive midfielder actually being the issue, not necessarily the defense as well. Obviously they're both issues, but the lack of protection massively affects that as well. So with Liverpool's passing and how much quality there is there, I can't see Salah not getting at least one. So I think for me, I think it's probably just because the upside of the potential against Norwich, it'll be Lukaku captain, Salah vice. But I'll be interested just to see how things pan out during the midweek games, whether that influences anything. But yeah, probably Lukaku captain for the moment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Ollie does because he's brought back a half-fit Maguire and that didn't work for him. So, well, I think I prefer a half-fit Varane than I will a half-fit Maguire, but that's a different issue. He's brought Maguire back when he's clearly not fit, and I think they could. Well, I don't normally say it, but I'd rather have Eric Bailly in the team rather than Maguire on his form at the weekend. But it's a different matter. But yeah, I think it's going to be between those two. Surely, it's got to be. I can't think of really outside of those two. If there's, I could make a case for like a Vardy or someone. Is there anyone else outside those two you'd even just throw a differential captain on there, Sam?
I mean,
there's not much. Like, I'm looking at the fixtures and they're quite even, aren't they? Like all these
fixtures. If you wanted to be a bit spicy and throw something out there, you could maybe go Zaha against Newcastle if you've got him for whatever reason. Like Newcastle evidently can't defend, so that's maybe an interesting one. Other than that, like maybe Antonio against Spurs again.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Like Spurs can't defend either, so that's another
London derby, doesn't he, as well?
Yeah,
that's like to play Spurs.
Yeah, so maybe Antonio is not a bad option. But yeah, for basically just talking myself into it just then, like if you're not going to captain Lukaku against Norwich, when are you ever going to captain him at home?
Yep.
Having said that, a wise man once said, "Never back the early kickoff." So I don't know
What about
if
Salah this weekend? No, that didn't work.
Yes.
no,
He was
Salah
about
goal,
Salah's on another planet. Lukaku's I don't know. I will be captaining Lukaku. I'll tell you that now.
You're not tempted by Townsend?
We'll see. You may laugh, boys. You may laugh. We will see. Who is laughing?
I don't
at the end
doubt,
of the
especially
week.
in the next 2 games.
Yeah, the
his
next 2 or
potential
3. Yeah, long term,
Yeah.
no. But yeah, as long as Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison are out, and he's got penalties as well, then I quite like it. But when them 2 are back, he shouldn't be around any team for that long.
But Benitez has kind of got this 4-2-3-1 thing going, really, like /4-5 or whatever you want to call it. I think he likes the width. I don't. I think if you try and jam Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, I mean, Rondon's basically dropping out when Calvert-Lewin's back, right? But
Yeah,
it might not be that Townsend or Gray get dropped. They might just keep going. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily a dead cert that they don't start.
I think just because early in the season, I don't think there wasn't many times when Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison were fit that both of them played. But
But I think there's only one game this season that Townsend hasn't started. It's game week 2. He started every other game this season.
Yeah. Just one to look out for. Cause I'm sure he'll do good over the next 2 or 3.
Keep your eye out. Keep your eye out.
Yeah, we'll both be crying when he scores a hat-trick
Keep your eye
against
out.
Watford anyway. So
Yeah. 10 past 3. Jeff goes goal at Goodison.
yeah.
Panic sets in.
It wouldn't surprise me, to be fair. But yeah, we're just trying to critique you. We're not slating you for that pick. He's not too bad for the next few.
And this is the glory of Fantasy Premier League, right? Everyone can look at a team and think, I wouldn't do that. But that's why everyone's got different teams. And I love the fact that people have different teams. We all play FIFA. Our favourite time of the year is the start of the year when everyone's got different teams. And then eventually everyone sort of funnels into this conventional. And with Fantasy Premier League, it's like the other way around almost. It's that everyone's got this template team, and then you eventually funnel off into other areas based on what you think is going to happen. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I think now that everyone's a lot of people are wildcarded, and especially like that midfield that we've been talking about, there's so many options that you can go for cheap. So it's nice to see a lot of difference in the teams. Like you kind of said earlier about the league, that now you've got a decent gap in the league because there's a bit of difference between the teams.
You might have convinced me to rethink Wang, though. I'll give you that.
Yeah. We'll see how it comes out. There might be a few changes, but 90% of it's there, isn't it? You got a good solid base to it.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Was there any other fixtures in there you wanted to talk about, Charlie? Anything that stood out for you in those fixtures? Fancying an Arsenal few goals that in against Villa and tomorrow night, of course.
Well, actually, yeah. So we've lost our last 3 games against Villa in a row. So that's bodes well. But quite pleased that it gets going early though. I do like a Friday night fixture, so looking forward to that one, obviously. And I'm going to have 2 Arsenal players going into it as well, so it'll be a big Friday night for me.
That's a bit different. You're playing on a Monday and a Friday. That's what you get when you're not in Europe. You're not used to that, are you? Yeah, there's not particularly. I quite like that Everton fixture, to be fair, for that Townsend punt, but there's quite a few even games. I'd even argue that Man City game away at Brighton's quite difficult. So the City assets aren't as good as they could be. Yeah, outside of that, there's not a huge standout in those fixtures apart from the ones we've touched on. Is there anything any of us want to touch on before we end for today? I think we've covered it quite well, especially it helped with Sam's wildcard there as well.
Yeah, all good.
Nope, I think we're all good.
Yeah, that sounds good. So thank you both again. Appreciate that. And it was good going through it like that. And luckily, I was going to say, there's no international break coming there, is there? But the next podcast will be around in a week's time. We are quite early this week, so it's probably going to be a bit over a week for the next one. Well, we'll be looking at game week 10. It feels like we're getting through the season quite quickly now after that international break, but that should be good. And we will see you all on the next one. Have a good rest of your evening.